Welcome back, everybody, to the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast, episode number 80.
Wow.
It's
80.
Friday, which means we're coming at you with another fight night preview for hashtag UFC Vegas 22, headlined by a big fight, Dom.
We love this.
Derek Brunson versus Kevin Holland. The quiet, composed Brunson versus Big Mouth Holland. What are your thoughts, and how are you doing?
A rivalry here. Can't wait to see this fight. Derek Brunson looking to shut down two hype trains back to back. I'm doing quite incredible. Feeling rejuvenated. Got a big card here. We got a pay-per-view next week with Stipe on it. How are you?
Good. Now let's just get into it.
Alrighty.
It's time for the news.
The news.
We got a fight cancellation to start out.
But.
So first off, originally scheduled on April 17th was a huge fight at middleweight. Robert Whittaker versus Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa is unfortunately having to withdraw from that fight due to flu symptoms.
The normal flu.
Right,
yes.
like he has the flu,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Yeah, so he had to drop out of the fight for that reason. However, the UFC finds a replacement.
And dare I say, we may got a better fight.
It could be a hot take, but it's one that I think we might share.
Yeah.
I think Kelvin Gastelum might give him a better fight.
A fight years in the making. Coach tough together. We're supposed to fight for the title in 2019. Robert Whittaker fell out of that due to getting a sports hernia. Here we are now. Kelvin Gastelum taking this fight on a month's notice.
Now, let's not overlook that even though Kelvin looked great in his last fight, he was on a 3-fight skid.
Yes, and this is Robert
before
Whittaker.
that. And this is Robert Whittaker.
2.0.
2.0. Now, Kelvin Gastelum, I think when I've been sitting here and kind of, taking it all in that this fight's looks like it's gonna happen, knock on wood. Kelvin Gastelum tends to fight up or down to his competition.
Yeah.
Depending on if he's overlooking opponents or if he's, it's a lot of times he kind of beats himself.
Yeah.
You look at that performance he had against Israel Adesanya.
He looked like a champ.
He did. And then after that, it didn't look like his head was really in it against Darren Till.
And
then Jack or
weird.
Manson was bad.
Yeah.
But then he did look great in his last fight.
Yeah, he looked really good against
And he
Ian
called
Heinrich.
to be the replacement for this bout. So
He
it's
did,
nice,
actually.
Yeah, so it's nice to see that he's he called a shot and the opportunity presented itself and he's taking advantage of it. So he's going to be ready. Robert Whittaker, being the professional he is, I know will be ready for this.
That's a banger.
It's a great fight.
That's the week after Till Vittori, the middleweight division. Got a lot of parts moving right now.
And I think it's still, even though take out what we said about it being more competitive, I get it. Gastelum's lower in the rankings, but I still think this is going to give this division a lot of direction, regardless of who wins, because it's still just as credible of an opponent. You see what Gastelum did with Adesanya, you can't overlook that guy.
No matter who wins that bout, something big's coming next. I don't know what that may be, but something big.
Agreed.
That's a great fight. That's April 17th.
Now, technically, we have another fight announcement, but this is going to go ahead and carry over into the rest.
Yeah.
UFC 261. We've already got 2 title fights that have been scheduled for that one. The 2 women's title fights. Rose Namajunas looking to take the strawweight belt back from Weili Zhang.
Oh, yeah.
And at flyweight, Valentina Shevchenko looking to defend again against Jessica Andrade.
2 of the best on-paper women's fights the UFC have had scheduled in many, many years.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're looking at it from a parity perspective,
Oh, yeah.
Rose Weili is just like...
Everybody's begged for it.
That fight is just, to me, on paper, it's 50-50.
It's got to be like one of the most requested UFC women's fights from the community in years.
I'm assuming Weili will be a slight favorite, but you look at what Rose... And I know MMA math doesn't work.
And when Rose
But you
is
look
an
at what
underdog,
Rose, you look at what Rose did
Yep.
to Joanna in her first fight, and then even in the second fight, and the fact that Weili, amazing fight, amazing performance, but
and if it hadn't been for getting slammed on her head, was beating up Andrade real bad in their first fight, got the revenge and beat her in the second fight. We could have seen Weili Rose a couple years ago if it wasn't for that head slam.
That's true.
But we're getting it now.
Yeah, and the girl that slammed her on her head is getting that shot at Shevchenko. Valentina coming off probably her weakest title defense. It's not. It still was dominant, but
she did lose a round though.
But Jennifer Maia, I don't think anybody really thought Jennifer Maia had much of a chance. And the fact that she was able to kind of control her and
a whole round,
yeah. It at least was some. It was some chink in the armor, right?
Yeah.
It was something because she had looked flawless before that.
Can't wait for those two. And like we said, we have already mentioned those, but there's one we have.
But there's just a lot.
There's a lot here.
So first off, there is a main event, and it's neither of those two fights. We have a rematch for the welterweight title. Kamaru Usman.
He's back.
Already back, and he's looking to defend once again and shut him up for good. Game bred Jorge Masvidal.
Wow.
So. Let me hear your thoughts on this title fight.
You know, after Kamaru beat Gilbert, we were probably like, okay, this is the fight we're going to get. They're going to do the Ultimate Fighter, and then they're going to do the rematch. Is it what we wanted to see fight-wise? No. Let's be honest. We don't, a lot of people didn't want to see the rematch, but they're doing it. And I think the biggest selling point to this fight is that, okay, they get a camp this time. Which, by the way... still nowhere close to a full camp, depending on how you look at it. Usually those are 8 to 12 weeks. This got announced 6 weeks out. I'm assuming they knew about it at least 1 or 2 weeks ago. So let's go 8 weeks max that they've had to get ready for this. Better than 6 days, right? So we'll see how it goes. I'm more excited for the other 2 title fights. However, I'm never going to complain about having 3 title fights. And, Noah, there's going to be people.
Oh, yeah, you want to go ahead and get into that?
There's going to be people in the stands. Mm-hmm. Ladies and gentlemen, UFC 261 taking place in Jacksonville, Florida. Funny enough, the first venue the UFC went to post-COVID, not including the UFC event in Brazil when COVID first hit, without fans. Now they're returning to Jacksonville for the first event with fans. Full capacity, 15,000 seats. Will be on sale March 26th. Whoa.
Yeah, Dana dropped that out of nowhere. We know he had been talking to Texas for a while, and I was assuming those talks are still going on.
Yeah.
But out of nowhere, dropping a Jacksonville-sized bomb on us.
Florida said, come on down.
So, let me start with the fight.
Yeah.
Because...
I gave my thoughts and you didn't get yours, sorry.
No, you're good. Because it's not going to be much different from yours, but I think I'm going to be a little bit more straightforward. I don't care about this fight.
It's just there.
The first time these guys fought, I was really excited because Masvidal, that run he had been on, he kind of made a believer out of me that he could really overcome those odds against a dominant champ like Usman. He did not, but he did at least show something. Like, it was a domination, don't get me wrong. But in that first round... He showed, it looked like Usman was just a little bit uncomfortable on the feet.
Well, and we've talked about this before, I think, on here. And if we haven't on here, I know at least, outside. But as crazy and as dominant as Usman was in the grappling wrestling department, Jorge takedown defense wasn't awful. You know what I mean?
So there's a lot. So actually, I don't know. There's been a few narratives around this fight since it first happened, and I don't know if I agree with any of them. And I did at one point agree with the 6 days notice kind of argument. But now I've kind of turned around on that because Masvidal was looking to be in that position.
Yeah.
He was training for Usman.
Yeah.
Regardless of if he knew he was going to fight him or not. So to me, the 6 days argument isn't there. However, where you have an argument is that he did cut that weight in 6 days.
A lot of weight.
And
that son of a bitch was eating pizza.
And Masvidal has never been a guy who gets exhausted, I mean,
it was noticeable.
But it was bad after the first round.
Yeah.
I mean, that weight cut
especially as hard as he went in the first round.
So, that's got to be a factor. However, on the other end, Masvidal's takedown defense looked a lot better than I think people thought it might or give it credit for. But you look at how Usman fought Burns, where he kept it on the feet, and that tells me he had been preparing to have a fight on the feet, and then he had to turn around and go back to kind of his bread and butter.
That's a viewpoint I had not even heard until right now.
So I'm just saying that these are there's a lot of variables, which kind of raises my excitement for the fight, just because. But I think at the end of the day, they kind of both cancel each other out, and we're gonna get much of the same.
And you look at, okay, well, who's the better fighter then?
Yeah,
and Usman.
In my opinion, yes.
Yeah.
Now, as for fans, I'm going to be curious to see what kind of protocols are in place for this.
Yeah,
because
I think that's
Dana in his kind of in his follow up, I guess, correspondence about this, ever since he dropped that video announcing it, he's made it clear that the UFC was the first to do it. They did it the best, and he said that they're the best promotion to kind of do this and do it safe. So I'll be curious to see what, if any, protocol there will be.
I almost feel like from the UFC's side, you at least would want to do the mask, even if it's not required in Florida. I don't know. I mean, I guess at the end of the day, they're going to be more worried about the athletes testing negative and stuff first and foremost. But the last thing you want, if you're the UFC, is for, God forbid, some sort of super spreader or something just negative to come out of this. Because if they come out of this unscathed, like they did when they started with no fans and brought sports back, the UFC is going to look like geniuses. Again.
It's true.
So it's a double-edged sword.
It's a risky move, but they have proven through this entire ordeal that known as COVID that they're willing to take the risk.
Yeah, so...
And they're not a company that's struggling for money by any means. I think it's legitimately just that they think they can do it. They think they can do it safe.
Yeah.
So they're like, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
No waiting around.
Exactly.
No playing to people's emotions, A lot of people are very emotional about this, about COVID, and I understand that completely. I don't expect everyone to be on board with this. Mm-hmm. We've even got our own hesitations. However, they've yet to prove me wrong. They've yet to, I guess, slip.
Yeah.
A couple fighters have tested positive, but they've handled it so well that it hasn't become a mass spread through an event or anything. So it's a big step up.
And, to their credit, and partially to Abu Dhabi, at Fight Island, they did have a limited number for Connor Dustin, and nothing came of that. Yeah. Now, that was socially distanced and masked and everything over there in Abu Dhabi, but still...
It's something to think about.
It's just something, So, we'll see.
Yeah, so really looking forward to that.
UFC 261 is massive. Plus Anthony Smith, Jimmy Crute, Uriah Hall, Chris Weidman to round out the main card.
Yeah, it's a great main card.
So, woo!
Yep. Moving on... That's the end of the news.
The news. Let's go now.
So it's time to preview a 6-fight
Don't we
main
love them?
card.
It's like all of these fight nights lately have just been 6 fights. I love it.
I love it. Just going to run down the card real quick. We open our main card at heavyweight. Tai Tuivasa.
Everybody loves Tai Tuivasa.
Love the shoey.
Oh, yeah.
He gets a last-second replacement here in Harry Hunsucker from the great state of Kentucky.
Yes.
That borders us.
This is true.
Following that fight, welterweight. Song Kanan. A great talent there.
Yeah, great challenge.
Going up against a veteran, Max Griffin, a guy who doesn't get the respect he deserves. Mm-hmm. After that, at bantamweight, a couple young guys here. Adrian Yanez going up against Gustavo Lopez. Then women's strawweight, Cheyenne Buys and Montserrat Ruiz.
That's an intriguing one.
It is. A lot of unknowns there, but those two fights right there that we just
back to back.
That's the very unknown what could happen there. Co-main event of the evening. Lightweight, he's back. Gregor Gillespie, he's back. He went fishing and now he's back.
We got a little bit of a banger here,
and he's going up against pretty much. He's number 15. This guy might as well be number 16.
Yeah.
Brad Rydell. These guys are neck and neck. Completely different styles. We're going to talk about it, but. The main event of the evening, middleweight, Derek Brunson, Kevin Holland. But let's kick it back to the beginning. Tai Tuivasa, Harry Hunsucker. Take it away, Dom.
So here it is. This was originally supposed to be the third fight of the evening, or fourth, but now it's the first. I don't give a shit. Tai Tuivasa's back, doing shoeys. He's 10-3, 9 KO TKOs. He's 4-3 in the UFC. all 9 of his KO TKOs have came in the first round. He's got notable wins over Andrei Arlovsky via decision and KO'd Stefan Struve in his most recent outing. His notable losses have come to Junior Dos Santos via TKO, Blagoy Ivanov via decision, and Sergey Spivak via submission, one of each method. On the other end, Harry is 7-3, 3 KO TKOs, 4 submissions. That's a perfect 7 out of 7, 100% finish rate. He's 0-1 on the Contender Series. This will be his UFC debut. All 7 of those finishes in the first round. He likes to get in, get out. Notable losses. He actually lost to Dontel Mays, who was supposed to fight Tai Tuivasa. Right. That was at HR MMA 77 in 2016 via TKO. And then he lost to Jared Vandura. That was on the Contender Series via TKO. Somebody's getting TKO'd.
Yeah, and it's going to be Harry Hunsucker. I'm going to be honest here. You know, I was willing to give Harry the chance here, you know, give him the time of day. But you look at his opponents. I believe he's faced one opponent in his entire career, or 2. Out of his wins, he's fought, I think, 1 guy in his entire career with a winning record. That's just, and I get it. It's not, you know, when you're on the regionals, you're just kind of fighting.
You're just fighting.
And, you know, he's finishing these guys in the first round. He's doing what he's supposed to do. But this is, I mean, Tai Tuivasa, I know he had that 3-fight skid back in like 2018, 2019.
Tai's good.
It was very close to being cut. But he was looked at as a prime, you know, like prospect in this heavyweight division. And I still think he can get back to that. He looked great against Stefan Struve.
Still young.
He's looked great in the past. I love that fight he had with Cyril Asker. That fight was awesome. He just beat the shit out of him for 2 minutes. It was great.
Fans love Tai.
Yeah, the shoey. The guy's got the personality, but I think he's got the talent to back it up. It's just he's kind of got to get out of his own head, and that 3-fight skid was very much a lot of that. It was a lot of his confidence looked like it had been lost.
Yep.
You know, that fight with Arlovsky, you know, he barely won that fight, and Arlovsky's always kind of that test of like, if you can finish Arlovsky, you kind of hit that next step.
Tai Tuivasa, Tom Aspinall.
Well, no, he didn't finish him.
Well,
I'm saying more so, you know, that fight. I remember watching that and thinking Arlovsky won.
Yeah.
It's just, if you can't clearly beat Arlovsky, can you really hang? And I think that might have had an effect on him. But he bounces back with Stefan Struve. I think he bounces back even more so here. First round, KO TKO for Tai Tuivasa.
First round, KO TKO, Tai Tuivasa. I'm excited to see him back in the octagon. It's a big test for Harry Hunsucker here. And, you know, like we said, the level of competition is staggering when you compare both these guys together, and I think that's going to be the biggest factor here. The heavyweights, all it takes is one punch. I'll give him credit there, but I think Tai is just such a well-rounded martial artist compared to Harry, and I think that's what's going to get the job done. He lands the clean shot. First round for Tai.
Awesome. Moving on to the welterweights, Song Kenan and Max Griffin.
Oh, yes.
Now,
indeed.
I do just want to point out that Dominic
blushing.
should know a lot about this fight.
Yes.
Because, as you all should know by now, Dominic, being a member of the MMA Elite now,
yes,
he is a writer for Overtime Heroics. Go support them. If you follow me or Dom on Twitter, you'll see us sharing the articles around, and he wrote an article about this fight. So tell the people why they should be excited about this one.
Yeah, so this is potential barn burner of a fight here. So Max Griffin, 16 wins, 8 losses. He's got 8 KO TKOs, 2 submissions, 4 and 6 in the UFC. But don't let that steer you away from Mr. Griffin. He's got notable wins over Mike Perry via decision in a fight he dominated from start to finish. And also a majority decision over Zalim Imadaev. Some losses. His UFC debut was Colby Covington. And he got TKO'd. Then he fought Thiago Alves, a split decision. Lost to Alex Morano via unanimous decision. And then also lost to Alex Oliveira via split decision. So he's 2 judges' scorecards away from being 6-4 in the UFC.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to, isn't it?
It's crazy. And then 6 of his 10 finishes in the first round. On the other end, Song Kenan, 16-5, 8 KO TKO, 6 submissions. That's 14 out of 16 via finish. He's 4-1 in the UFC. Started with 2 wins. Lost in the middle to Alex Morano. Now he's on a 2-fight win streak, looking to make it 3. 10 of his 14 finishes have came in the first round. A couple other notable losses outside of Morano. Noah. Song fought Israel Adesanya in 2015 at WFC in what was Izzy's 3rd ever professional MMA fight.
Interesting.
Izzy TKO'd him.
Yes, he did.
Then he fought the co-main event guy in Brad Riddell at Glory of Heroes 6 in 2017 and got TKO'd there.
Mm-hmm.
So the level of competition in the UFC definitely is in favor of Max, but overall, look at the guys that Song Kenan has been in there with, plus similar losses both to Morano. This is an interesting fight and a stylistic battle here on the feet, I believe.
That's a good point here. Both guys, have really liked to finish their fights, like you said. Kenan, 14 of 16. Griffin, 10 of 16. Obviously, that favors Kenan, but Griffin being a guy who's fought in the UFC for a little bit longer, It makes more sense. If you look at those 8 losses for Griffin, man, 7 via decision. This is not a guy that's going to get taken out easy.
Exactly.
So for Kenan, I'm a big believer in his talent, especially how well-rounded he is. 8 wins via knockout, 6 via submission. To me, he's got to be able to stay composed in there. Yeah. Just because he hurts Griffin once.
He's going to have to be ready to go 3 rounds.
Because that right hand is a missile.
Oh, man. Song's right hand is nasty.
However, he's got to be prepared to go 3 rounds with Max Griffin.
Yeah.
What worries me is him being kind of this younger guy. He's 31, but I'm just saying, like, he fights like a young kind of guy with a lot of energy, right?
He's trying to find that one shot.
Yeah, and I worry that if he hurts Griffin, he could exert his entire gas tank, and then Griffin's just going to be able to kind of pummel him in the later rounds. Yeah. However, I got enough confidence in Kenan to get the win here, but I got enough confidence in Griffin
to go the distance.
Yeah. So I'm going to go Song Kenan via decision.
I think the same. I'm going with Song via decision as well. Like you said, he's got that one-punch power, and when he lands, he goes in for the finish. Now, most of the time he gets it, but Griffin's a guy, like you said, only been finished once and 8 losses. And he's been in there with some very tough guys.
Well, he's not the most naturally gifted guy. He's not the most athletic guy. But he's so scrappy. He's so tough. So durable.
And he's a unique movement on the feet.
Yeah.
He's very light on his toes and just kind of hops around. It's very different. And he's kind of a punches and bunches guy. Like, he's going to piece you up with his jab. Song wants to land one shot and get out of there. It's going to be interesting, and it's interesting to see if this fight will go to the ground. Max has shown at least the ability to take it there. It might not be a bad idea against a guy with the power that Song possesses. We'll see. I think it has potential to be a fight of the night, but at the same time, it could be a very slow-paced, kind of like, I don't know, Max is going to be jumping around, Song is going to try and find the one shot. I don't know if it'll be a war, it just has the potential to be, but I am going Song Kenan via decision.
Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention, that is going to be my fight of the night pick.
Okay, love it.
Yeah. Moving on. Adrian Yanez and Gustavo Lopez. Yes. 2 very unknowns here, but tell the people...
2 young guns in the UFC anyway. Gustavo, badass name, dare I say. Is 12-5, 5 KO TKO, 6 submissions. That's 11 out of 12 via finish. He's 1-1 in the UFC. The win coming against Anthony Burchak via submission. Notable losses: Andre Ewell at KOTC back in 2018. That was via KO. And then his UFC debut was against Merab Davalishvili. Mm-hmm. That's a tough debut for anybody, and he lost that via decision. He's got 8 first-round finishes out of those 11. For Yanez, he's 12-3, 7 KO TKOs, 2 submissions. He's 1-0 in the UFC and 1-0 on the Contender Series. He's got 5 first-round finishes. That win on the Contender Series came to Brady Huang via TKO, and then his UFC debut was Victor Rodriguez, and he got a KO victory there. A notable loss I wanted to point out was to Miles Johns back at LFA 55 in 2018. Big prospect
what Miles Johns is now.
And that was via split decision. Adrian Yanez is coming into this on a 5-fight win streak. Noah, does he make it 6?
I think he does. Now, this fight, man, this is a hard one to predict. I don't claim to know a ton about either one of these guys. A lot of it's going to come down to kind of, where level of competition, and ultimately like how they, what's kind of their style here. You got Gustavo Lopez, who loves to finish a fight, 11 out of 12. But Yanez is right there with them, man.
Yeah, 9 out of 12.
It's a
good matchup.
It's a great matchup, and it's really tough to call. But I'm very impressed with Yanez's ability so far to finish his UFC caliber opponents. You could maybe argue the Contender Series, sometimes they do have guys in there that aren't necessarily UFC caliber, but even in his debut over Victor Rodriguez, finishing that fight in the first round, Gustavo Lopez, Valishvili, tough debut.
Yeah, man.
And then he was able to submit Burchak. Man, I feel like I just kind of like reduced my fraction, but didn't really like solve anything. I'm going to go with Yanez, and I'm going to go Yanez via third round KO TKO.
Okay.
It's a tough one to call though.
This is my fight of the night here.
Okay. It feels like it could be.
I feel like we might just have a low-key banger. People are going to sleep on a lot of the fights on these cards. That's why we love these so much and studying and researching. But I do agree with Noah again that we're 3 for 3 now. I'm going Yanez, but I'm going via decision and an absolute barn burner. These bantamweights know how to scrap. And, it's interesting, but a guy that's riding a hot streak 5 in a row, looking to make it 6, all of a sudden, he's right on the verge of trying to fight his way into that killer's row in that top 15 with a couple more wins. I'm going Yanez, decision.
Awesome. Now it's time for the women.
Yes. Back to back. Very interesting.
And it's so tough to preview these.
Yeah.
Cheyenne Buys and Montserrat Ruiz.
Montserrat is 9-1. 3 KO TKOs, 2 submissions. This is her UFC debut. She has 2 first-round finishes, and prior to this, she was in Invicta, where she went 1-1. Other end of the spectrum, we've got Cheyenne, who is 5-1, 1 finish. That was a KO TKO. This is her UFC debut. However, she did get a win on the Contender Series. That came against Hillary Rose, and that was via unanimous decision. Coming into this, though, Cheyenne's on a 4-fight win streak. 2 women here, only 1 loss on their record. Both have been in Invicta. Man, I want to talk about just dead even. This is tough.
I'm not going to waste any time here because I'm going to be honest. Again, I don't know a ton about either of these women.
This is tough.
I'm going Montserrat Ruiz, and here's why.
Me too.
It comes down to the finish rate.
Yeah.
Ruiz has shown that she can finish a fight.
In both ways.
Cheyenne Buys has struggled to do so. She's got the one lone finish, and it was her debut. Don't get me wrong. There's a place in MMA for the people that go to decisions and dominate the piece by piece kind of their fighters. However, going off a resume, I'm more impressed when I look at Montserrat Ruiz.
Right.
And I do kind of like her pedigree a little more. I like that she does have a win in Invicta. Cheyenne Buys lost her lone fight in Invicta. She has a couple wins in LFA, though. It's tough, but I'm going to go Montserrat Ruiz.
Yeah, both.
Be a decision.
Yeah, both young here. Ruiz is 28, Buys is 25. Reach is 63-61. This is going to be such a dead even fight. I'd love to see the betting odds on this, but I'm going Ruiz as well, and I'm going decision. I mean, I think these are so tough to call. Both with something to prove here in their UFC debuts. Who's going to make a statement? That's what we're looking for here.
Yeah,
especially when you've got Buys coming off of the Contender Series. We know that they're looked at as highly touted. So, no matter what your weight class is, so she's going to look to come out and make a statement. Ruiz, a beast in her own right at 9-1. Man.
It really is
interesting.
2 women looking. Who's going to make a statement?
Yeah.
Women's strawweight, the most stacked women's division in MMA.
Yep.
And who's going to come out on top here and who's going to really make a name for themselves? They have a prominent place to do it.
Yep.
This fight got moved up to, what do they call it, the showcase fight or something like that, that third from the top.
And like we say, they put it on the main card for a reason.
Yes,
we
say
say it all the time, and here we are again.
You look at what's on the prelims. You have 2 more pedigreed women.
Yeah.
headlining the prelims.
That's
at
a
Marion
great
Renaud
fight in its own
and
right.
Macy Chiasson.
Yeah.
And yet they put that there and this here.
And Macy's a huge prospect right now.
So they're really wanting to push this fight, and maybe it's just they think it'll be a better fight. And I'd be really interested to see that.
Yep. Couldn't agree more.
Moving on to the co-main event of the
back.
evening. He's done fishing for now.
Yes, sir.
Gregor Gillespie and Brad Riddell. Get into it.
People, don't sleep on Gregor Gillespie, all right? 13 wins, only 1 loss, 6 KO TKOs, 5 submissions, 6-1 in the UFC. 7 first-round finishes out of the 11. Notable win against Yancy Medeiros, that was via TKO. And the lone loss on his record, Kevin Lee, set up by one of the most beautiful head kick combinations you'll ever see in your life, knocked his lights out. Kudos to Kevin Lee. For Brad Riddell, he's 9-1, so back-to-back fights here where both opponents only have 1 loss. He's got 5 KO TKOs. He is undefeated in the UFC at 3-0. He's got 3 first-round finishes. Here's a little tidbit. Well, we already talked about it, but he got the notable win against Song Kanan, as I mentioned earlier, back in 2017 via TKO. And then in the UFC, he beat Magomed Mustafayev via split decision.
Nice.
And Brad is riding a 6-fight win streak. This is potential fight of the night. I just couldn't go with it because I think it's going to get finished. And it's going to get finished in the second round by Gregor Gillespie via submission.
Nice. I like it. You know, that's a...
It's going to be a hell of a 2 rounds.
It's a good pick, and I do want to break down kind of the stylistic difference between these two. Gregor Gillespie is it when I say this about a lot of our wrestlers, but
he's a
grinder.
Yep.
This guy will literally not give up on those takedowns. And you've seen him maul people before. The way he does it with such aggression, but yet he's so smart at the same time.
Yeah.
It's really hard to pull that off. When you look as aggressive as you do, think of a guy like how Clay Guida is.
Yep.
But Clay Guida tends to kind of let some of that fight IQ go out the door when he gets
sprint at you like a bull.
Just bite down on his mouthpiece, you know. Gregor does that, but with intelligence. It's very interesting how he does it.
And he's not bad on the feet by no means.
No. Now, he does have more wins via knockout than submission. Some of those probably being
on the ground.
Ground and pound. And he's really good at that as well. All around, when he has an opponent on his back, or when he has his opponent's back,
they're in trouble.
He's lethal, man.
Yeah.
He's absolutely lethal, and he will smother you.
He's he probably, out of that 1 through 15 in this division, might be the most slept on contender.
He has to be at this point. I think he was starting to get there.
Yeah, that fight with Kevin Lee was huge.
That fight with Kevin Lee really, really hurt because he got put on a highlight tape. And not only that,
for his first fight back since
took a year and a half off to go fishing.
Exactly.
I just keep saying that because that's what he said. Now, on the other end, you got Brad Riddell, a little less known, since this is kind of his first opportunity to hop into that top 15. Interesting point. This guy used to be a professional kickboxer.
Yeah.
His stand-up is very impressive.
I think he has like 70 kickboxing fights.
Yeah, the guy's really damn good. And in the UFC, he's been flawless so far. 3-0. Magomed Mustafayev, great win there. He has played it relatively safe. 3 wins, 3 decisions. We haven't seen that finishing ability in the UFC. Not going to knock the guy for that, though.
Man,
and I just want to point out, Gillespie's 1 loss came via a head kick from a wrestler.
Yeah.
And now you got a guy whose weapons are his hands and kicks.
Yeah.
It at least puts some doubt. And you got the layoff for Gillespie, where he's been off for a year and a half. What kind of guy are we going to see come back in there?
Yeah.
Is his confidence shot?
And Riddell's complete opposite. Confidence is high. 3-0 in the UFC. 6-fight win streak as a whole.
Mm-hmm. And
he total spectrum.
Fought in September. Decent layoff. He's ready, healthy. However, I am going to go Gregor.
I think he really is that good.
But I'm going to go Gregor via decision. I can't quite commit to
he just grinds him?
I have too much faith in Riddell's kind of ability to at least withstand the punishment.
If Riddell can stuff takedowns, this is very interesting.
That's where this fight gets interesting. And, Kevin Lee really telegraphed that kick when he knocked
so beautiful.
Out. The way he set that up. And yet he's not a kickboxer.
Yeah.
And now you got Riddell, who knows all the tricks.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to be a really interesting fight. I feel better, though, about the idea of Gregor kind of being able to get those takedowns and hold that top position.
Yeah, I'm very excited for that fight.
Now.
Oh, and a fight that we're really excited about.
Derek Brunson, Kevin Holland, the floor is yours, Dom.
This is a great fight, man. Derek Brunson's 21-7, a staple of this middleweight top 10. He's got 12 KO TKOs, 3 submissions. A lot of people sleep on Derek Brunson, but damn it, he finishes fights. He's 12-5 in the UFC. 14 of his 15 finishes came in the first round. His UFC debut was against Chris Lieben. That was via unanimous decision. He got a decision over Lorenz Larkin. He TKO'd Ed Herman, TKO'd Smiling Sam Alvey, TKO'd Uriah Hall, KO'd Lyoto Machida. That was brutal. Got a decision win over Elias Theodora, decision over Ian Heinisch, and then most recently shut down the hype train of the once undefeated Edmund Shabazian via TKO in a fight he dominated from the time that fight started until he finished it.
It's true.
Notable losses, I had to give my guy Kendall Grove a shout out. I remember being a little kid watching The Spider back then. He was so tall and lanky.
I forgot his nickname was The Spider as well.
That was at Show Fight 20 in 2012, and Derek lost that via split decision. He's lost to Jacare Souza twice, both via KO. Once was at Strikeforce in 2012, once was in the UFC. He got TKO'd by Yoel Romero in a fight he was winning up until that happened in the third round. Got TKO'd with Robert Whitaker in a crazy one-round fight. Lost the decision to Anderson Silva in a fight that many, including both of us, and as much as it pains me to say it, he probably should have won, but the judges saw it otherwise. And then he got TKO'd by Israel Adesanya at Madison Square Garden. However, he's coming in on a 3-fight win streak here. Riding a high. For Kevin, he's 21-5. Also has 12 KO TKOs. He does have 5 submissions, though. He's 8-2 in the UFC. Plus, he's 1-0 on the Contender Series. 11 of the 17 finishes have came in the first round. Wins over Jeff Neal. That was at XKO 34 in 2017 via TKO. He beat Gerald Mearchart via decision. He beat Alessio Di Chirico via decision. TKO'd Anthony Hernandez. TKO'd Joaquin Buckley. Got a split decision against Darren Stewart. And then KO'd Jacare Souza while sitting on his ass. Pretty crazy. Notable losses. Lost to Thiago Santos via decision on a fight he took on like 2 weeks' notice off of the Contender Series because he technically didn't earn a contract to the UFC from Contender, but they called him up and he took it on with Santos. Not many people willing to do that. And then he also got submitted by Brendan Allen, the submission specialist. He is on a 5-fight win streak with all 5 of them coming in the year 2020.
There's only one I want to add to his notable losses. He did lose to the former Bellator middleweight world champion from Cincinnati, Ohio, Rafael Lovato Jr.
Booyah.
Now that was for Legacy Fighting Championship via submission in 2015. That was his middleweight debut, by the way. So we have a really interesting one.
This is one of the hardest main events I think we've previewed.
I definitely think it is because we know Derek Brunson is very much, he is who he is at this point.
Yeah.
Great fighter. Sometimes his chin can kind of let him down.
Well, it seems one of those guys again in the biggest fights, he'll fall. Then he'll win his way back to another one.
Yeah.
Fall again.
Right. Yeah, he's very much in that Michael Chiesa, that Neil Magny kind of role. I've heard him literally be described as a gatekeeper multiple times, and he really does encapsulate that. But gatekeeping ain't easy, and he shut down the hype train.
He's a guy that kind of accepts the role. A lot of people
that
don't.
Edmund Shabazian win, though, I think incited a lot of confidence into people.
Dominated him.
And you got to think a win like that. I've always questioned Brunson's confidence sometimes. He'll talk the talk. Adesanya.
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, I'm going to beat that skinny guy up." As soon as the fight started, though, he did not look that confident. However, a win like that over Shabazian, over such a hype train, a guy who was touted as, the next guy in this division, and he shut him down.
This is, by the way, Derek Brunson. This is his 5th UFC main event.
Yeah, it's crazy. A guy that slept on quite a bit.
Yeah.
Now, for Kevin Holland, not slept on.
Not at all.
He's on everyone's radar.
Yes.
But I think do we really know how good this guy is yet? You know, he has had his he's had his losses. The Thiago Santos one, short notice,
And he
really
looked
tough
good in that
opponent.
fight.
He got beat up
Jacare was the biggest test, for sure.
so far.
And we saw what
for sure.
happened.
And
What a funky fight.
but again, you could question it and go, well, how good was Jacare? You know, he's old. At
His
this
guy
point.
on his way out.
Now, I for one I still think Jacare still has a lot.
Well, in the
left.
way that he did it.
Yeah, I mean,
When I say sitting on his ass, it's because he was sitting on his ass. In bottom guard, landed a right hook out of nowhere, and literally knocked out Jacare. It was crazy.
So this fight is it's so hard, right?
Yeah.
Like you said, because I don't know who has the advantage where, really, if I'm being honest. I'd like to think Holland has the advantage if he's on his back. I think showing that aggression.
He's good on his back, that's true.
Showing what he did against Jacare. But is Derek Brunson really going to take this fight to the ground?
Yeah. And on the feet, man, dare I say dead even?
Well, on the feet, I think Derek Brunson might have a little more
Holland's
technique.
long.
I think Derek Brunson has the technique.
Yeah.
I think he's got the fundamentals.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Kevin Holland has the power, speed,
length.
that length.
Yeah.
I mean, he's got that athleticism advantage.
Woo.
It's
dead even.
let me throw this out there. Let's talk through this.
Yeah, we need
Let's
to.
throw this out there. Do you feel like the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Derek Brunson?
Yes, and for those that haven't seen the fight with Kevin Holland and Darren Stewart, that is example number one right there. He gassed significantly against Darren Stewart and, damn near lost him the fight, essentially. He looked very bad in that third round, and if this goes to round 4, round 5, not that Brunson's, this is his 5th main event, but off the top of my head, I'm not sure how many have actually went all 5 rounds. Somebody's going to have to fact check it. But overall, we're talking about a guy with a wrestling pedigree before, and he's just been there against the bigger name guys. I think he's more prepared to go 5 rounds in order to dig out a win here. And I think that's what he's going to have to do.
Okay.
I don't know if he can just come in and starch Kevin Holland.
Right.
I don't know if I can see Kevin Holland being finished the way he's looked,
Yeah.
if you're not getting finished by Thiago Santos, who finishes everybody, it's saying something, especially when you do it on 2 weeks' notice. But I might have just gave away my pick.
Go ahead.
Because Derek Brunson is going to do it again. I called it via text when he fought Edmund Shabazia. Noah's my witness.
I can confirm.
I said, man, I got a feeling Brunson's going to do it. He's going to stop the hype train, and he's going to do it again here. This time, you all get to hear it, so hopefully I'm right again. I think it's going to go 5 rounds. I think he's going to edge it out, the veteran expertise. I know they have literally the same amount of fights almost. Derek has 2 more. But overall, just experience-wise, goes to Brunson, and that's going to play the biggest factor here. He's going to do what he has to do to go the distance, dig deep, pull out the decision, and stop the hype train for now of Kevin Holland.
So we've had every fight the same so far.
Until now.
I'm going Kevin Holland. I think that even though the longer this fight goes, the more it favors Brunson.
It won't go too
It's
long.
very tough for Brunson's chin to hold up if he's being landed on.
He can get
if this
hit.
fight turns, because Holland is good on the feet.
Yeah.
So it's hard for me to believe that Brunson could go 5 rounds with a guy who's also on a complete stand-up battle.
Yeah.
For that reason, Kevin Holland via second round KO TKO. I think Brunson could even win the first round. I just don't see him being able to withstand that power, that speed.
Yeah.
And
Brunson
really just the fluid movement and really just the overall kind of unpredictability
Holland's funky.
that Big Mouth offers. It's going to be a fun fight, I think.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's going to last very long, but I think this is going to shoot Kevin Holland into some greener pastures.
You really do, but that's for Monday.
We're going to talk about that on Monday, assuming he wins.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, any other final thoughts on this card?
Man, this is, I was telling Noah before we started, one of, from top to bottom, main cards that we've previewed, one of the toughest and closest, especially like those latter 3, the women's fight, the lightweight fight, like Rydell and Gillespie, and now this. Very tough to pick winners. I think we're in for a really, really good night of fights Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. There are those cards where going in, when I'm looking at what fights we're breaking down, there are those cards where before I do my homework, I'm like, ooh, this card doesn't look that great. This was one of them.
Yeah.
But once we really dig in,
dig.
man,
You got to dig.
You know, and again, what do I always say? Fights aren't made on paper.
Yeah, right.
They're made in the octagon. That's all that matters. As long as these people come in and deliver, that's all that matters.
These are the
name
fight
value
cards.
doesn't matter if you're in a boring fight.
Yeah. Everybody's got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
that's why I'm very excited to watch these on Saturday. This card is on ESPN. It's a big one.
It is. That's true.
Now,
10 p.m.
10 p.m. start time,
Yes,
Eastern
East
Standard
Coast.
Time.
East Coast. Prelim 7.
And that's for the main card starts at 10.
Correct.
Prelims at 7.
Yes.
Prelims you can watch on ESPN Plus and probably ESPN as well.
I think ESPN or ESPN2, and then it switches over. Yeah.
And
They're showcasing them.
So then it'll be ESPN for the main card.
Yep.
Watch these fights, especially that main event and
You gotta
co-main
watch
event.
the
It's going to be great.
Yeah.
As for next week.
Oh, yeah.
Monday, obviously, we'll be recapping #UFC Vegas 22.
Next week's a fun-ass week.
Yeah.
Oh, man. We're going to fanboy out next week.
So we're recapping that on Monday and then Wednesday. You know what Wednesday
This is
means.
such a perfectly timed episode.
This episode's going to be a little extra special.
For so many reasons.
And that's because it's going to be our third classic pay-per-view review. We started with UFC 1, then we went to UFC 199. Now we're going to go a little bit more forward. UFC 220.
Man.
Now you might ask yourself,
Classic.
what's the significance
Man.
of this card?
Oh, it's very significant.
Well, the following Saturday, we have a big heavyweight main event for UFC 260, a rematch.
The biggest, baddest rematch.
Between heavyweight GOAT Stipe Miocic and Francis Ngannou. We're so excited for that. We're going to go back and watch the first time they fought, which was at UFC 220. They fought in the main event for the heavyweight title. Co-main event of that card was also a title fight. Daniel Cormier in his last title defense as light heavyweight champion, fighting Volkan Oezdemir. Very excited to break all those down with you and get into all the little fun facts of the card.
Next week is Stipe Miocic week on the podcast.
And then Friday, we have another preview, and it's for UFC 260. So it's headlined by Stipe and Ngannou too.
But damn it, tell them the co-main event.
The co-main event.
Nobody's talking about
the
it.
featherweight title.
Did y'all forget?
It's not even on the poster.
They ain't even talking about
Volkanovski looking to really solidify himself as the true king of featherweight against
T-City.
Ortega 2.0.
Ooh.
Ooh. And it's going to be a great card.
Yeah, the whole card's fantastic, but damn it, the two title fights.
And we're going to preview all of it for you on Friday. So get ready for next week. It's going to be a great week.
Big week.
But until then, Dominic, tell the good people where they can find you on social media.
On Twitter, on Instagram, at DSLEE14. Find the podcast on Twitter, on Instagram, at BAJ_MMA podcast. Have a great freaking weekend.
Well said. As for me, if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_, you'll be taken to our link tree, which gives you the links to all the platforms that the podcast is on, along with the social media platforms. That includes the Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube channel, and Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. It's all on there, baby. And there's a couple links for the Anchor page. First, leaving a voice message. If you have a thought about these fights that are coming up on Saturday, if you have some thoughts on the title fights the next weekend, if you want to talk about UFC 220, you have a 60-second voice message spot that you could have on our podcast. Please use the link in the link tree, and you too can be featured on the Below Average Joe's MMA podcast.
Who doesn't want to be on the podcast?
Yeah, 100%. Also, there's a link if you want to become a supporter of the podcast. That just provides us with a few dollars a month, and all that money goes back into improving the quality of the podcast, whether it be audio equipment or down the line doing a video podcast. So again, you can find all of that if you go to my bio on Twitter or Instagram at ntbaker_. But with that, we're out, and we'll see y'all on